And so, yeah, it's called Perplexus. And yeah, if you ever get a chance to play around with one of those, I highly recommend it. It's really good for spatial skills and the development of set skills. And it's a little much for little kids, but maybe 7, 8, 10 years old, they can finish that. I'm still working on my first complete pass. All right, so anybody got any news, any fun stuff? Anything you want to share before we plunge in? Minjung is here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, I want to share something with you because I was going to say you all. Isis, we'll see you in a bit. So 20 of you posted Escher stuff, your own Escher tilings, and I just graded them, and I was impressed. I got to say, many of them were really, really nice, and so I want to share some of those with you here. And just because I don't share yours, it doesn't mean it wasn't good. Okay, I just kind of quickly picked some things that just kind of popped out. There were many that were great that I didn't put in. I kind of ran out of time there, but so I didn't pick the first 6, but I picked the quick 6. So I want to start with that today, and then we're going to go on to talk about symmetry. We're going to start on our journey to the land of symmetry today. We're going to talk about isometries. Isometries are the building blocks of symmetry, and they pop up in all the discussions that we have about symmetry. So it's terminology that we need to know. Now, luckily, we know most of it already. There are 4 main types of isometry, and after I show you guys, and we have a little virtual exhibit about your Escher style tilings, we're going to plunge into those isometries and then get started with point symmetry today. All right, so without further babbling, I'm going to share with you the tiny exhibit I made just now. If you didn't turn yours in yet, please do so when you get a chance. I'm going to mark them late because they are late, because they're due now. But you still get 70% of the grade. So it's always worth turning it in, even if it's late. Try to get them in on time. Obviously, it'll be beneficial to your course grade. If you're late with one thing, it's not going to kill your otherwise great grade. But if you're habitually late, then of course. So what was cool to see here with these tilings is that the animal theme kind of hit home with you guys. There's a lot of fish here and other animals, birds and dogs and stuff. I love this one because it's so clean and crisp, and there's that. I mean, this is clear. Aiden, yeah, that's good. So it's clear that the artist had studied his or her Eschers, and that studying can lead to, with some people, immediately awesome results, and I think this is just awesome. There's 3 colors of the 3 tones of what do you call all those, green of some sort, or turquoise? I don't know. There's three different tones, and I don't know. What do you guys think? Can you like immediately see what was used? to make this.
I'm trying to decipher the grid.
Yeah, see, yeah, that's another cool thing here. It's not. I don't think it is that as easy as some of the Eschers, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because, believe me, I have many other things to say. But if you did mark the points where more than 2 tiles meet, yeah, these are not going to be the vertices, right? It's clear. So, yeah, it's a rectangular grid. But you can see even just from what we've done already, you can see kind of what the the maneuvers would have to be. What would it be in the left-right direction? You know, the horizontal direction. So it's a rectangular grid. Yes, parallel translation in the left-right direction. And what about the vertical? Like what's going on here? I'm going to just trace that like that. Can you see that it's a midpoint rotation this way, right? Or it could actually be a glide reflection as well. You know, if we take this piece here, and then it is exactly, yeah. I think it's a glide going vertically. So, by the way, on the test, the midterm that we will have in a couple weeks, I will ask you to look at some of these maneuvers, but nothing too crazy. Okay, we're just going to look at the Eschers that we've already talked about. Basically, those would be the ones to study. So I'm not going to toss some kind of curveball. It'll be just simply the Eschers, the basic, and we can look at them again. We'll have some review on that. So anyway, I think this is a rectangular grid with parallel translation and glide reflection. That's what I think. Okay, now love this. The detail is great, and obviously nowadays with the help of the computer, you can get into this kind of detail and repeat it perfectly. Escher didn't have that luxury, and so his detail is all. Well, no, I shouldn't say it's all repeated because he did do woodcuts. So, by the way, how do you think if he's doing a woodcut and then he's stamping that wood stamp would and using 3 colors, would he like stamp one color at a time, like the dark first? Dark would probably go last, right? If I guess it would matter, depend on what kind of ink he's using. But I could imagine it may be hard to like keep switching color on a piece of wood you're stamping. Anyway, I'm pretty clueless when it comes to the techniques and questions about those. But yeah, just something you wonder. On a computer, it's pretty nice because you can just kind of, with a couple clicks, you can change the color. If you don't like your initial idea, you can change the detail after after you create it. You can keep tweaking it. So anyway, but this is great as well. By the way, just for the record, I don't even remember who did what, so I'm not going to say who did what. Okay, so I'm going to look at these again, but for right now, I couldn't tell you who did what. Now this one, I think it's really cool in the sense that there's the two tilings. I mean, it's cool for a couple of reasons. One, there's two different looking tilings. I think it's actually the same tile shape, but looks like there's the clownfish and then I guess stingray or something like that. And although it's the same shape, I believe, but it's this kind of dual, two different looks on the same tile, which is very cool. Sometimes Escher would do these things that would look very similar, but it's actually not quite the same. Like one tail of the stingray would go to the left, and then the clownfish would have a little bit different tail. Oh man, just the detail he would get. But anyway, I think these are the same shape, but it's very cool that they were colored differently like that. But then, because that's just one tiling, these sea creatures are living in this, world with a lot of, I guess, seaweed. It looks to me like it's seaweed. So it's really clever to put the two together like that. Nice job. Totally different. Like I wouldn't have ever thought to do that. So this is really something. Okay, this dog's always cute, and I appreciate the hand drawn ones because, oh man, it just takes a lot of effort, and you learn your tiles so much better when you're doing by hand. So I really appreciate that, and yeah, really nice, clever idea with when you have the ears pointing up like that, then it kind of creates this chin that works nicely. So yeah, well done here. Yeah, there was that. This looks like it's the rhombus. Is this the rhombus file? I think the creates that certain symmetrical pattern. Okay, so how about this one? It's another fish. What do you think about how this was created?
The colors are really pretty.
Yeah, they seem to kind of jump out and create a mood.
Yeah, it's very calming.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was probably done the same way as this set of fish, I believe. Yeah, because it might be a square tile instead. But you've got the parallel translation horizontally, and then I think this is a midpoint rotation. Yeah. But anyway, very cool. And these cats, man, attitude. Cats always have attitude. It's not happy. None of them. Not the white ones, not the black ones. Nobody happy. And yeah, cats, you gotta. Anybody here have cats?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know how it is. They can give you some tude. All right. So again, these are the quick six. There's many more that didn't make the show on the first pass, but again, doesn't mean I don't love them. I love them all. And the ones that I didn't love are the ones that weren't turned in yet. So there's about 5 of you that didn't get a chance to turn it in yet. So I'll be looking forward to those soon. Okay. Or actually, you know what? It doesn't even matter. I mean, if it doesn't make it to the beginning of the class today, then I mean, you can wait until May to turn it in. It's the same late penalty. Okay. So either you're late or you're not late. So 20 people were not late. So you got your full score, and then 5 people hopefully will be late. Just don't ignore the assignment. That's all I ask. But there will be a 30% filing fee for the late assignments. Okay, so I'm going to move on to a different thing altogether. And this different thing is called symmetry. You know, something I actually never thought about is the letters for symmetry. You got S, Y, M, M, E, T, Y. So with the exception of the R, all the letters have a symmetry of their own. Huh. R is an example that doesn't really have any significant symmetry. And you might say, wait a minute, S is not symmetric. What are you talking about? Well, it depends on the font a little bit, actually, but S does have what's called rotational symmetry. And we're going to get to that a little bit later today. But in any case, what are these building blocks of symmetry that I mentioned? I'm going to isometry. Isometries are the building blocks of symmetry. And I'm going to write this word again here. Isometry. Isometry. Do you know what that means? Anybody? Isometry. I think you learn a lot by thinking of the different parts of a word, what they mean, just by part. So isometry. The ISO doesn't mean what it means in today's world. In today's world, ISO, you often see that in like some kind of wanted ads or something, in search of, right? So that's nothing to do with this. ISO means the same. So this is a Latin-based term. So in maybe ancient Greek or over there, I don't know any Latin or Greek actually, but ISO, a simple meaning for it is the same. Metry, this is a little easier. Metry, if you think about the metric system, what are those? Those are measures, right? So metry, it's another Latin-based word. I mean, the isometry is from that ancient language, and it stands for measure. So isometry is something that keeps the same measure. So isometries preserve measure. I'm gonna just write that little tidbit. Isometries preserve measurement. What does that even mean? Well, it means that if I do something to an object, what's this? A scented candle. I don't know why it's here. But let's say I have this thing, and well, a very easy thing would be to just move it. You know, instead of being in this corner, I can move it, and then now I find it in the other corner. So just moving something it's actually, in some sense, a symmetry. It's called a translation. And let me just write this down. There are 4 isometries. So these 4 different movements that preserve measure. Preserving measure means doesn't make it bigger, it doesn't make it smaller, it doesn't break it or you know, stretch it or distort it in any way. So there are 4 isometries. So these are 1. Translation. So let me show you what a translation is. So it's basically, you know, taking something to another place. So you start somewhere and you take it to another place. That's it seems weird to think of that as symmetry, but it's kind of, we kind of need that just for bookkeeping. And you'll see later what I mean. So let's say my object here, my motif, is this comma. So I could take that comma and put it in a different place. Okay, that's called a translation. And maybe unlike some, you know, international statements, nobody gets lost in the translation. Okay, everything always arrives, you know, where they need to go. There is no being lost in a translation. This is not that kind of translation. Okay, 2. This is what is most often understood to be symmetry. To be I think many people think that this is all there is to symmetry. It's the idea of reflection. So what is that? This seems at least a little bit easier to digest. So let's say we have this wonderful comma, and I'll draw a line of symmetry here. So this would be my mirror line. And then I'll draw the resulting motif as a mirror image of that first one. Okay. Yep, not perfectly identical, but close enough for today. So reflection is something that will take an object and reflect it across a line. It always reflects it across a line. Here's one hand, and I can take its mirror image like that. There's a mirror line in the middle, a line of symmetry. A line, a line of reflection line. And you can also think of a real mirror as being something that offers symmetry. If you look in the mirror, you see a reflection of yourself. It's actually the mirror image. It's not actually you. Except, have you ever seen a mirror that gives you your true picture? Anybody seen these? It's called a. I think it's actually called a true mirror. Yeah. Sanaya, where did you see one? You don't see them too often. I've seen, I think, one in New York, but I started getting really interested, and I searched. Oh, okay, of course there's an app for that. Yeah. But I walked into a bathroom once. It was on Ludlow Street, and I just remember looking at. Does anybody go to Ludlow Street these days? I mean, okay, these days probably not so much, but it's probably still pretty lively place. See, I was there before you were born, believe it or not. So anyway, sorry, maybe I'm assuming too much about your age, but I was there when the party was getting started. But anyway, so there was this place called Pink Pony, and I know it was one of the last bars standing. I don't even know if it's there anymore. You walk into the bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror. It's like, wait a minute, who's that? And you realize, oh my gosh, it's actually like they've reversed it back. You know, because typically the image that's looking back at you in the mirror is your reflection. But there are these mirrors. They're a little bit thicker. They're like maybe 2 inches thick, maybe 1.5, 2 inches thick. And they're probably pretty expensive. But anyway, so that place had a true mirror, and you see yourself as you would in a photograph, and it was pretty bizarre. So basically, I guess the moral of my story is, if you are here and you reflect and then reflect again, then you end up back in the original, and that's going to come into play actually in a little while, probably Thursday actually. So yeah, it's easily reversible. Okay, so what's what can we do to a motif so that we're not making it bigger and we're not making it smaller, we're not distorting it in any way? One thing comes to mind. Yep, Sanaya, you got it. It's called rotation. So we can take a comma or any other motif, and we can spin it around. I'll draw this example over here. So here's my comma, my sad kind of grisly looking comma. A long night on Ludlow Street, and then came back and found that things have turned around. Well, he or she was gone. Well, they were gone. They is a good pronoun, by the way. I'm learning. Got to use they more often. So you can get all spun around. You see? See what happened? It's like my my scented candle box, or this is even better. Pororo. When Pororo gets all turned around, it'll be upside down. So you can rotate him or anyone else, actually by any degree. I mean, 180 degrees is nice because it's a half turn, but you could rotate by any degree. So rotation counts as a symmetry. It's rotation in itself is an isometry. It preserves the measure of whatever you're turning, and it's going to come up a lot in this little exploration of symmetry that we're going to go on. Okay, these are, this is mainly just terminology that you need in order to be able to follow the discussion. So I'm not going to ask you to list 4 symmetries, but I'm sorry, 4 symmetries, but you need to know these words to be able to follow along really and converse in the language of symmetry. All right, this is good that we've already seen this when we were doing Escher maneuvers. I think it'll help. Glide reflection, as you remember, was when we did a translation, but in addition to the translation, we also did a flip, or reflection. So glide reflection, and you can go in any direction. You can have a vertical one, you can have a horizontal one. I'm going to draw a horizontal reflection line here. I'll make it a different color, but yellow. I hope that doesn't upset anyone. They say yellow is a color that makes people nervous sometimes. So what happens with the glide reflection is you take this motif and you reflect it, and then you translate it. So let me first draw the intermediate stage here. And I'm going to draw it in gray so that you see that that's not the final stop. So glide reflection has 2 parts to it. The reflection across that yellow line, and then translation horizontally. The translation is always going to be in the same direction as your mirror line. So the line of translation is parallel to the mirror line. Okay, so the ultimate ending place for that comma, who's been through quite a bit already, is a little further away. So there's a reflection in there, and then translation. So what would that even look like? Well, here's an example. Think about if you're on the beach. It's a nice thought. Something, it's not like in my immediate past, but I can still put myself in there. You're on the beach, and the sand is a little bit wet, a little bit moist, and you're walking. Let's just say barefoot. Sandals would work also, but let's say walking barefoot, and you're leaving footprints on that wet sand. So what kind of pattern would you be making? Here's one foot, and then the other foot, unless you're jumping, the other foot's going to be ahead a little bit. You are going somewhere, right? So this is an example of a glide. So you, let's say here's your right foot, and left foot is going to be a reflection and a translation. So you're leaving these footprints in the sand like that. So that's an example of what a glide reflection looks like, or what it is. So here are the 4 building blocks of symmetry: translation, reflection, rotation, and glide reflection. Any questions on these at this point? These are important terminology. These are important terms for us to move forward. In the first bit that we're going to do this week, so rest of today and then on Thursday, we're really only going to focus on numbers 2 and 3, reflection and rotation. And then when we get to line symmetry and plane symmetry, we're going to see the rest of it. So, in fact, let me write here the order of how we're going to do this. First, we're going to talk about point symmetry. We're going to talk about line symmetry. And then we're going to talk about planar symmetry. And it's a natural order because they say point has no dimension, line is one-dimensional, and plane is two-dimensional. So we're going in the order of, I guess you could say, complexity or the number of dimensions. You don't really have to think about the dimensions so much here, but in any case, point symmetries are patterns that occur around a point, like a letter. You see, like here, like the letter M. What kind of symmetry do you think the letter M has? Out of these four, is there some kind of translation
Reflection?
happening?
Reflection.
Yeah, it's got a reflection to it. Right down the middle like that. And in fact, that kind of symmetry, and notice the letter T has the same, although I didn't really draw it so well or symmetrically. I mean, asymmetrical can often be more beautiful and considered a better design than something symmetrical. I hope you don't think that just because we're talking a lot about symmetry that everything has to be symmetric. Never. Okay? I want to put that out there. Me as somebody who pays attention to these things, I would say that usually the more interesting designs, I mean, they might be completely asymmetrical, but really almost the best ones are the ones that flirt with symmetry, but then they take it away somehow. And those are the ones that I'm probably drawn to the most. And maybe this is true with letters, maybe like an S that doesn't have a perfect rotational symmetry is cooler looking than the one that does. See, S, you know, if you draw it just like quote unquote perfectly like that, then this would have a rotational symmetry to it. There's a 180-degree turn that you could turn that S 180 degrees, holding that red point fixed, and it would align with itself. It would just, the upside down version of S looks exactly the same as the starting point. Is that better than an S that, you know, maybe has a little you know, something else going on? I don't know. I'm sorry, this is not really you know, that exciting, but you know, maybe you know, when you're designing something, you could think in terms of symmetry versus asymmetry, and I think a lot of times the asymmetry is the more interesting one. So let's look at some examples of what all could happen with point symmetries. And let me pull up some examples. Well, I'll let you guys help me out here. So I'm going to share my tab. and I want to look at fashion logos. Okay, so not the company's designs per se, but just the logos. Of course, somebody in the company designed these things too. This is a nice example. We'll start here. So let's see. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back and look at this group of fashion logos. And I don't even know if these companies make clothing. If you're fashion, does it automatically mean clothing?
Like if you're in fashion design, or
just the word fashion. Does it automatically mean that you've got something to do with clothing?
maybe. I mean, you could also be in fashion marketing and everything, so.
Oh no, but are you peddling clothing all the time? Like, or would accessories designs be considered fashion? I guess so, right? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so again, I don't know if these are all clothing. Or maybe, like, does Chanel make clothing? Or are they just purely accessories?
Which one?
I'm a new. Well, I was looking at the Chanel logo. So do they make shoes, right?
They make accessories and they make clothes. They make both.
They make both. Okay. All right. So
they also make furniture.
For real?
That's
Oh, I didn't know that.
And jewelry, like that. I know that goes with accessories, but.
Right. Huh. Yeah, stuff I don't know. Good. You guys are helping me out here. Okay, so my goal is to talk about these logos in terms of symmetry. And focus on the reflections and rotations only. Okay? So for now, you can kind of forget about the translation and glide reflection. We're not going to be bringing those up in this discussion. But the question is, what does, and maybe we don't go through every single one, because there's so many other examples to look at too, but let's look at like, one or two from each row. So I'm going to start with this first one here. What is this company? I could probably think of it. It's a woman's name, right?
Is it Tory Burch?
Tory Burch. That's it. Yes, Tory Burch. All right. So here's the first question. When you see a logo or some other thing that you want to analyze in terms of their point symmetry. By the way, sometimes we call these rosettes, rosette design or rosette symmetry. So the first question you ask yourself, does it have a reflection line? And I can see this in this Tory Burch logo that it does. And if it does, it will go through the midpoint. Okay, so if there is a reflection line, and I can actually see two of them here. This blue is very thin, but I can see two of them here. Do you see that? There's two reflection lines, one vertical, one horizontal. I think that this file is so big that my pen just got a lot thinner. So let's see. Interesting. Okay, so because there is this reflection, and all you need is one. If you've got a reflection line then you're automatically in the reflection category, okay? And we note that by the letter D. Okay, so that's a D. It's going to be in a class with all the other reflection types. And I'll tell you in a little bit what the D stands for. We'll do a couple of these, and I'm going to start, unraveling this system here. So the letter D is used when the object has reflections, at least one reflection line. And you don't really have to look everywhere. Like I said, if it has a reflection line, it's going to go through the midpoint of the thing. Where is the midpoint? Well, sometimes it may not be so obvious, but I think just it's pretty intuitive. It's at the center of what's going on. Okay, so the next thing and the last thing, this system that we're going to use to categorize different patterns only has two symbols. The first one is a letter. It's going to be either D or C. And then the second one is a number. And the number has to do with the rotational part of the symmetry. So basically, the number, remember we're only dealing with reflections and rotations. So reflections get the first symbol, the letter D or C. And the rotations get the second symbol. And that's going to be a number that tells us how many rotational positions the object has. So in this case, this Tory Burch logo, if we consider this the way we're looking at it, the initial position, I could also turn it around 180 degrees, and it would look exactly the same. Then if I turn it back, another 180, then I'm back to the original. So this Tory Burch logo has two rotational positions. Sorry about that. Let me actually just erase that whole thing. So I'll type it. Oh man, yeah, the typing is so tiny. And this is a real annoying part of the program. I can't zoom in for everybody. I could zoom in for myself, but it's pretty bad for this kind of sharing. Okay, so and I make sure to write that 2 as a subscript. So the Tory Burch logo is categorized as D2. Now let's talk about this. I'm going to skip the next one there for time being anyway. And let's talk about this guy here. What is this logo? I don't think I know personally. True Religion. Okay, good. Oh, I have something by them. Yeah, okay, all right. So, what do you think about the first question? Does this thing have reflection or not? Does it have a mirror line somewhere?
Right down the center.
Yes. Down the middle. Okay, so a lot of things, if they have a reflection line, it's down the middle. Like yourselves, for instance, or a butterfly, or lots of animals, right? Birds. That kind of symmetry, by the way, is called bilateral symmetry. I'll type it in here. I don't even know if you can see it. Bilateral symmetry. Wow, it's so tiny. Wow. Bilateral symmetry. I honestly can't even see if I made a spelling mistake because it's so tiny, but I think it's okay. bilateral BILARAL, bilateral symmetry. That's the kind of symmetry that humans have, for the most part, like, just down the middle. They say symmetry is one of the criteria in like a beauty contest. Somebody who's very symmetric looking is supposedly beautiful. This is by a formula, right? So if they go by this formula, then they would say somebody who's symmetric looking is more beautiful than someone who's not. Now, I don't know, that's probably not counting hair, my gosh, think about who's that model? This is before your time, but one of the first supermodels was asymmetric in a cool way. Can you think of who I'm talking about? One of the first supermodels, if not the first, maybe it was the first. It was a female. Drawing a blank. Cindy Crawford, yes. Cindy Crawford had the famous mole, right, on one side, not on the other side. Honestly, I don't think she would have ever made it as a model if she had had moles on both sides. This is my guess. Maybe I'm totally off. But that little bit of asymmetry made her career, I think. Anyway, but humans have this kind of bilateral symmetry by nature, or an approximation. Like in the real world, these are all approximations. On the computer you can make it perfect, but lots of animals, lots of plants, lots of designs like this logo have that bilateral symmetry. Just so you know what the word is, bilateral symmetry. Now, what would the first symbol be in this true religion logo? I'm going to give you a hint. You've already seen it today. I'll give you another hint.
Is it D?
Yes. It comes from the word dihedral. Okay. So it's a D that stands for dihedral. Dihedral. Di means two or double, and this is kind of a technical term from group theory, where they study these kinds of groups, and essentially it means it's got twice the elements of what are called cyclic groups, which there are plenty of those. Like for instance, this polo player here, next to the True Religion logo, it does not have a reflection line, right? So we're going to call that C. C stands for cyclic. Okay, I'm going to write these words down in just a minute. But for now, let's just be happy with D and C. D for reflection, C for no reflection. And the number comes from how many rotational positions you have. So in the True Religion case, that's it. You don't have any way to turn it. Like if I turn this thing, it's not going to look like that logo anymore. So like if it looks like it's that logo upside down, then that we don't like that. We like it when we start turning. We like it to look exactly like the original. If it only has one rotational position, then we put a 1 on it. So this True Religion logo is a D1. So it's a different category than the Tory Burch one, because the Tory Burch one had the 2 rotational positions. The true religion has won, but it does have that reflection. Now this polo, the polo player, it's for the brand called Polo, right? Or Ralph Lauren Polo, whatever it is. It also is C1. It's C because it does not have reflection. It's 1 because there's only one way to orient this thing as far as rotations. And a lot of things are C1. Basically, if it doesn't have any, significant symmetry, then it's a C1. And for instance, in the second row, that cat is a C1, that alligator is a C1, and that hawk looks like a hawk or eagle is a C1. Now, more interestingly to me, I'm skipping this heart because, well, you might say it's a D1, but because it's got that hand-drawn quality to it, somebody might argue, well, there's a little bit of a difference, and that's why it's cool looking to me. Look at this third row. What's this again? I know I've seen it before, but what's this logo here? First one in the third row. Armani, right? I should know that. I have something from them. Anyway, this is that kind of cool thing where it's got the shape. Like at first glance, it seems to be similar to that True Religion logo, but because that bird is facing one way, not both ways, it's facing one way, that takes away that reflection. So that's a pretty cool example of a C1 pattern. To me, it's more interesting or more appealing than a lot of other C1 logos. Okay, I mean, of course, you're not going to go by Symmetry group alone when you think is someone appealing to you or not, or how appealing. But it's something that factors in though, on some level. Okay, how about this Chanel logo? Anybody want to give it a shot? You can say the letter and the number. So the letter would come from whether it has reflections or not, and the number would come from the rotational status.
Would that be like a D2?
Positions. D2, you said? Yep, just like the Tory Burch one. Yes, that's exactly it. So good job there. Thank you, Mateos. This is a D2, real classic logo. They haven't changed it. Sometimes a company will change their logo, but yeah, it's maybe, I think probably more often than not, it's not a good idea. Okay, let's jump down. Just want to look at that Fendi logo there, this one in the bottom corner, and see what it's got going on. Maybe I'll ask somebody. How about Ria? Ria, are you with us?
Yes, Professor, I'm here.
Okay, so that Fendi logo, does it have reflections, do you think?
Yeah, I feel like if you turn it like by like 180 degrees, it's like kind of flipped down.
Yes, you're right, but that doesn't have to do with reflections though. So that has to do with the rotation. So this one does not have reflectional symmetry, but it does have twofold rotations. So this would be a C2. See how that works? It's a C2 because no reflections, but it's got 2 rotational positions. You could turn that logo around and it would look exactly the same. Kind of like those Escher's drawing hands, remember? Okay, let's move on to something else. Although these kinds of things make good examples. We could look at so many other, examples like other logos like car logos are, real simple usually and nice, nicely designed, nice to look at. Any logos are fine. Let's talk about those 2 words though that I mentioned earlier. So there's cyclic and there's dihedral. So cyclic is when you have no reflection. Oh man, why did I start writing like this? Oh, this is going to look like it's not going to look so good. Okay, but no reflection in the logo or the design. Maybe it's more interesting that my writing looks so imperfect. Okay, dihedral. So yeah, so the letter C is when the object has no reflection or no reflections, none at all. And it's D if there are at least 1 reflection line. And here's a little pointer. Whatever the number is, the rotation number, that's exactly the same as the number of reflection lines. So if you've got a D2, then it's going to have not only 2 rotational positions, but it's also going to have 2 reflection lines. If you've got a D5, then it's going to have 5 rotational positions, but also 5 reflection lines. Okay, so what can you think of a? Let's try it the other way. Can you think of a logo that has a C2 symmetry? I'm going to go back to sharing this.
Chase?
Did you say Chase?
Yeah.
Chase logo. It's actually great that you bring this up. I mean, your answer was not great in the sense that it's not correct. But I was going to ask about this category next. What is the symmetrical category here? What kind of point symmetry does the Chase logo have? Sanaya, what kind of rotation? What we say 1-fold, 2-fold, 3-fold, 4-fold. What kind of rotation are you thinking? 4-fold rotations. Now, does it have reflections or no? You would be half correct. So you got the rotation part correctly with the 4, but you would have said D4. That is not correct. That is incorrect. This is a C4. C4 logo. A lot of times these logos are trying to evoke some kind of feeling. And I don't know exactly what this is trying to tell us, but it's certainly got a nice balance to it and like an interplay. You know, is it like, you know, people shaking hands or things just kind of working out? You know, it's just got a nice balance to it. Okay, so let me go back to my original question. Can you think of a logo of any business that has a C2 symmetry to it? This was a C4. C2. Okay, let's go a little easier. Can you think of a D1? Anything with D1? There's lots of them out there. And this is not some kind of consumer survey, so don't worry about it. You know, whatever you're going to say or think, you know, it's not the findings will not be used in some kind of market research. But if you're thinking about D1 logo,
Volkswagen, maybe?
ah, perfect. Yes, Volkswagen logo. Absolutely, yeah. This is a perfect example of a D1 pattern. You see how you can have that bilateral vertical symmetry line. I'm sorry, mirror line. But if you start turning the thing, it has to turn all the way around for it to look like a VW again. Okay, now how about the C2? You can think of cars, or you can go back to the fashion logos or whatever.
Walmart, maybe?
Let's see, Walmart. Ah, this is not a C2, but it is definitely worth talking about. So what's the Walmart logo? How would you categorize it? Let's first start with the reflection. Yay or nay?
It would be reflective. Is it a D1?
Half correct. You got the D right.
D2?
Keep going.
Oh, is it D6?
D6. Yes. Great.
Oh, this is
That's
much easier
perfect.
than I expected.
It's really not that hard.
Yeah.
You just kind of like see how many turns would it take to get the thing back to original. So you could turn this 6 times. You can just count those little spokes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. There are some cool logos with lots of spokes. Like for instance, the BP logo is one that comes up a lot when I let you guys loose, and so you start investigating. So this one has, I think, 14. So this little, I guess it's like a floral design, which is, I have a little bit of a problem with this logo actually. Not with the symmetry of it. It's really beautiful. It's a D14. I think is it 14? Wow. So you just have to remember where you start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 18. I'm sorry. That's a D18. But it makes it look like, what's that? The world's most expensive logo. What does that even mean? So, yeah, all you have to do is search for BP and spill, and you'll kind of get the idea that this kind of beautiful green flower is maybe not what they're doing. I mean, it creates a perception, of course, and it is what it is, you know. From a math, but we could talk about it from a math standpoint. It's D18. That's really what counts. Okay, let's see. Any other logos that come to mind that you want to throw out there? What does the Toblerone logo look like? Oh, that's a C1. Cobra Kai. Cool. Let me show you one to finish on. What do you think about that? Does this kind of throw you off? Do you have reflections here?
Would this be a C2 because you could do reflection through the middle of it?
You could definitely do reflection through the middle.
Or what would it be? I
But
don't know.
you can do more than that.
That's true. You can do reflection everywhere because it's a circle.
Yeah. So what do you think you would call that? Are you perplexed? I'm looking at this perplexus
Just
scan.
call it an O.
This is a D design for sure. But D what? What's the appropriate number? D1, D2, D3. It seems like none of them are big enough, right? Yeah, Nicolette, you got it. D infinity. That's really what it is. It's D infinity because you could have infinite number of different rotations and they all look the same. The result always looks the same. So the circle has an interesting property there. It's D infinity. Oh, Mateos, you had it even before. So if you're thinking of examples, what are some nice examples of these things? Then you can think of the regular polygons. Those are great examples of the Ds, right? You got your, well, you know, D1, you know, there's no polygon for that. I mean, of course, there's polygons for D1, but no regular polygon. D2, you could think of a rectangle, not a regular polygon, but anyway, easy. D3, starting there, you got your equilateral triangle. D4, square. D5, a regular pentagon. Then, you know, onwards from there. You know, all the regular polygons are examples of D sets. Okay, in the Blackboard content folder, I put in a little video, a little tutorial thing if you want to check that out. It's just me talking about this stuff for like maybe 5-6 minutes, but I think 3 examples. So you could check that out or not. Next time we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into these point symmetry groups, and it's going to be all right. I feel like it's going to be okay. For now, if you have any work to catch up on, if you haven't turned in something, you know, please try to do that, and you know, you could look at the book. Actually, it might be better not to be honest. I'm not even kidding. 'Cause if you look at the book on the point symmetry, if you look at the book from the point symmetry section, you'll be like, what is this? And that's what I'm going to get to on Thursday, okay? Page 138 and you know, a couple page forward. That's what we're going to talk about on Thursday. So it might be better not to get all, you know, flipped out on that because it's pun intended, by the way. it's gonna maybe make you not like it so much. But on Thursday, we're gonna try to make sure that everybody will like it. Alrighty, that's it. That's it for me. Are there any questions? Any other comments, criticism, feedback? Do you have any quandaries, dilemmas?
Did we ever find a C2?
Did we ever find a C2? Oh, good question. Oh. I mean, I could think of a few, but can you? Maybe you could think
No.
about that. How about this? Just search for some maybe like car logos and see if you can find a C2, and we can start with this on Thursday. All right? Does that sound good?
That's good.
Cool. Alrighty then. That sounds good. I will see you all on Thursday. And Aiden, I'm going to send you a link. Check your email. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.